Picture this. Tommy Lee, the wild and unpredictable drummer of Motley Crue, sits down to deliver a revelation that no one saw coming. The subject? Nikki Sixx, primary songwriter and the man often credited with shaping their legacy, but Lee doesn't paint a glowing picture. Instead, he opens a window into the cracks in their relationship, exposing the tensions that simmered behind the scenes of one of rock's most infamous bands. Sixx, known for his larger-than-life persona and unrelenting ambition, wasn't just the creative force behind Motley Crue, he was also its most divisive figure. Lee's revelations aren't just a tale of bandmates clashing, they're a testament to the challenges of navigating egos, addiction, and the chaos of fame. From the moment Motley Crue burst onto the scene in the early 1918s, it was clear that Sixx and Lee were the band's beating heart. But their partnership was far from harmonious. While they shared a mutual love of excess and rebellion, their personalities often clashed. Sixx's need for control and his relentless drive to push the band forward frequently collided with Lee's free-spirited, party-first mentality. Think of the recording sessions. Sixx, hunched over his notebook meticulously crafting lyrics, while Lee, full of restless energy, wanted to experiment and push boundaries. Their creative differences were both a blessing and a curse. While they fueled the band's innovation, they also led to fiery arguments that threatened to derail their momentum. The tension wasn't confined to the studio. On tour, their clashing personalities often boiled over into public spats, with Sixx's perfectionism rubbing up against Lee's more laid-back approach. For fans, the chemistry on stage masked the chaos behind the scenes, but for those close to the band, the cracks were impossible to ignore. If their egos created tension, Sixx's personal struggles poured gasoline on the fire. By the mid-1918s, Sixx was spiraling into a dark world of heroin addiction. His battle with drugs became the stuff of legend, culminating in a near-death experience in 1987, when he overdosed and was declared clinically dead for 2 minutes. Picture this: the band's creative leader, the man who wrote the anthems that defined a generation, lying lifeless in the back of an ambulance. For Lee and the rest of the band, Sixx's addiction wasn't just a personal tragedy, it was a ticking time bomb that threatened to destroy everything they had built. Lee, who had his own share of wild escapades, often found himself torn between supporting his friend and resenting the chaos Sixx brought to the band. Sixx's erratic behavior, fueled by drugs and self-destruction, created a toxic environment that left scars on their relationship. While Sixx and Lee's relationship was turbulent, it paled in comparison to the animosity between Sixx and Vince Neil, Motley Crue's lead singer. Neil and Sixx clashed constantly, their arguments often erupting into physical altercations. Sixx, ever the taskmaster, criticized Neil's lack of commitment, while Neil resented Sixx's authoritarian approach to the band's direction. Their feud reached its peak in 1992, when Neil left the band, or was fired, depending on who tells the story. Sixx's decision to replace Neil with John Corabi was controversial, dividing fans and leaving Neil feeling betrayed. Though Neil eventually returned, the tension between him and Sixx lingered, creating an undercurrent of resentment that colored their later years. The feud between Nikki Sixx and Gene Simmons wasn't just a disagreement between two rock icons. It was a battle of ideologies, a clash of values that exposed the widening gap between the raw spirit of rock and the calculated machinery of its commercialization. Sixx, a man who poured his pain and chaos into his music, saw Simmons as the embodiment of everything he despised, a businessman first and an artist second. Their conflict wasn't just personal, it was a symbolic struggle over what rock should stand for. Picture this: Gene Simmons, the master marketer of Kiss, proudly unveiling yet another piece of branded merchandise, from coffins to comic books, with the same gusto as releasing a new album. To Simmons, rock was more than music, it was a business, a multi-million-dollar empire to be meticulously managed. For Sixx, this approach bordered on sacrilege. Rock, to him, was rebellion, emotion, and authenticity. A raw expression of life's pain and passion, not a product to be packaged and sold. Their philosophical divide came to a head in the public eye, with Simmons frequently dismissing the struggles and vulnerabilities of those around him. Sixx, a recovering addict who had clawed his way back from the brink of death, was deeply offended by Simmons' lack of empathy. Simmons' controversial remarks about addiction, in which he appeared to trivialize the struggles of addicts, struck a nerve with Sixx, who saw them as not just insensitive, but deeply damaging. Simmons' comments about addiction weren't just a passing remark, they were a public declaration that revealed the stark contrast between the two men. For Sixx, who had nearly died from heroin overdoses and fought tirelessly for sobriety, Simmons' words weren't just offensive, they were personal. They dismissed the pain of those who had walked the same dark path, reducing their struggles to a lack of willpower. Imagine Sixx reading those words, his blood boiling with anger. This wasn't just about Simmons anymore, it was about every fan who had found solace in Sixx's music, every person who had looked to him as proof that recovery was possible. Sixx, never one to back down from a fight, hit back with equal force. Condemning Simmons in interviews and on social media, the feud exploded, with fans and fellow musicians taking sides, turning what could have been a private disagreement into a public spectacle. At the heart of their feud was a fundamental disagreement over what rock and roll should represent. Simmons, with his calculated approach to fame, saw rock as a vehicle for financial success, a means to an end. He didn't just sell music, he sold an image, a lifestyle, and a brand. Sixx, on the other hand, clung to the idea of rock as an art form, one that thrived on vulnerability and raw emotion. For Sixx, Simmons' empire-building felt like a betrayal of the genre's rebellious roots. The larger-than-life persona Simmons had built, a fire-breathing, tongue-wagging demon, was, to Sixx, a mask that concealed the soul of rock and roll. Their public spats weren't just about addiction or egos, they were about the very soul of the genre, with Simmons representing its commercialization and Sixx fighting to keep its spirit alive. Their feud left a lasting impression not just on their careers, but on the wider rock community. It highlighted the growing divide between the rock stars of the past and present, between those who saw music as a product and those who saw it as a form of self-expression. For Sixx, Simmons' comments and his entire approach to fame reinforced the idea that some in the industry had lost touch with what made rock powerful in the first place. But for all the drama and controversy, their feud also underscored an uncomfortable truth about rock's evolution. The genre that once thrived on rebellion and anti-establishment ideals had, in many ways, become part of the establishment itself. Simmons, ever the businessman, wasn't just selling music, he was selling nostalgia, a curated version of rock and roll that fit neatly into the mainstream. The conflict between Nikki Sixx and Gene Simmons may never have a clear resolution. Their differences are too fundamental, too deeply rooted in who they are as individuals and what they represent. For Sixx, Simmons will always be the symbol of rock's commercialization, a man who turned rebellion into a business. For Simmons, Sixx is likely just another critic, someone who doesn't understand the pragmatism required to succeed in a cutthroat industry. But for fans, their feud offers a glimpse into the complexities of fame, creativity, and legacy. It's a reminder that even within a genre built on camaraderie and shared rebellion, there are deep divides that reflect not just the personal struggles of its icons, but the broader tensions that have shaped rock and roll itself. Nikki Sixx, the architect of Motley Crue's debauchery-fueled legacy, lived a personal life as chaotic as the music he created. Beyond the neon lights of the Sunset Strip and the anthems of rebellion, his private world was an intricate web of love, betrayal, and emotional collapse. His high-profile marriages, first to Playboy playmate Brandy Brandt and later to actress Donna D'Errico, were a whirlwind of passion and destruction. These relationships, as glamorous as they appeared, were fraught with infidelity, addiction, and the emotional wreckage of a man who lived life at full throttle. Picture this. Brandy Brandt, the quintessential ADS icon, trying to hold her family together while her husband spiraled further into a lifestyle of excess. Sixx, consumed by the demands of his career and his insatiable appetite for indulgence, found himself drifting further from the stability his wife craved. Brandt, often left to care for their young children alone, watched helplessly as Sixx's addiction to heroin and alcohol consumed the man she loved. Their home, meant to be a sanctuary, became a battlefield, with arguments erupting over his absences and erratic behavior. Sixx's inability to balance his rock star persona with his responsibilities as a husband and father created an emotional chasm too wide to bridge. The marriage crumbled under the weight of mistrust and unmet expectations, leaving Brandt to pick up the pieces while Sixx plunged deeper into his demons. Sixx's second marriage, to Baywatch actress Donna D'Errico, promised a fresh start but quickly fell victim to the same patterns. D'Errico, captivated by Sixx's charm and charisma, soon found herself grappling with the same challenges that had plagued his first marriage. His infidelity, often fueled by the temptations of fame, left D'Errico feeling isolated and betrayed. Think of D'Errico, a woman who had her own successful career, struggling to reconcile her love for Sixx with the reality of his behavior. Their relationship became a roller coaster of fleeting highs and devastating lows. Sixx's addiction, though less visible than during his earlier years, still cast a shadow over their life together. For D'Errico, the man she married was both a loving partner and a ticking time bomb, unpredictable and, at times, unreachable. At the heart of Sixx's personal struggles was his role as a father. Despite his larger-than-life persona, he yearned for a connection with his children, a connection often hindered by his own self-destructive tendencies. His career, with its relentless touring and recording schedules, kept him away for long stretches, creating a void in his children's lives that no amount of material gifts could fill. Picture this: a man standing backstage after a sold-out concert, his mind buzzing with adrenaline and substances, yet haunted by the knowledge that he missed another birthday, another bedtime story, another chance to be there. Sixx's dual identity as a rock god and a father created a painful dichotomy, one he struggled to reconcile for much of his life. For Sixx, redemption wasn't a singular moment, it was a painstaking journey. Sobriety brought clarity, but also forced him to confront the damage he had caused. His marriages, broken beyond repair, were scars he carried as reminders of the price he paid for his lifestyle. But sobriety also gave him the opportunity to rebuild, to mend the fractured relationships with his children, and find a semblance of peace in the chaos. Think of the man behind the bass guitar, stripped of the bravado, sitting with his children and explaining the choices that had once defined him. Redemption, for Sixx, wasn't about erasing the past. It was about learning from it, about becoming the man his family deserved despite the weight of his mistakes. Nikki Sixx's personal life, marked by its tumult and tragedy, is a testament to both the destructiveness of fame and the resilience of the human spirit. His relationships, though battered by infidelity and addiction, reveal a man who struggled to find balance in a life defined by extremes. While the scars of his past remain, they serve as a reminder of the battles he fought and the strength it took to overcome them. For Sixx, his journey isn't just about redemption. It's about owning the darkness and using it to illuminate a path forward, both for himself and for those who look to him as a symbol of survival. In the end, Nikki Sixx's story is one of contradictions. He was a visionary who built one of the most iconic bands in rock history, but his ambition often came at the expense of his relationships. Tommy Lee's revelations highlight the darker side of Sixx's persona, adding another layer to the mythos of Motley Crue. For fans, Sixx is a hero, a man who faced death and came back stronger. For his peers, he's a polarizing figure, a reminder that brilliance and chaos often go hand in hand. And for Sixx himself, his legacy is a testament to the power of resilience, the price of ambition, and the enduring impact of rock and roll.